Great. Nice to meet you. Well, I've been reading up on the company now. Yes, sir. I very much would like to work for your company.
You're too aggressive.
Yes, I'd love to work for this company, sir. Sir, I would love to work for this company. I think... I'd love to have a job here working with you. It's a great company. I'd love to have a job here working with you. I do want this job. I'd love to work for your company, and I look forward to coming to work here every day.
This is No Brainers on Interviewing, brought to you by Cerebellum Corporation, with celebrity guest John Davidson.
Fear not. Now that you've got No Brainers on Interviewing, you've already taken your first step on the path to interview success. Throughout the course of this tape, we're going to help guide you through the interviewing process, from understanding the interviewer to accepting the offer. All of this will add up and help you land a job at a place like this. No Brainers on Interviewing was developed by the Cerebellum think tank, including Bradley G. Richardson, business owner and best-selling author of Job Smarts, and Marilyn Goldman, president of Horizons Unlimited Incorporated, a career counseling firm located in the Washington, D.C. area. And watch for some key interviewing tips from Tom Kiegelman, Vice President of Human Resources for Seagrams Incorporated.
And for additional help, we've included a booklet chock full of tips and summaries of what we'll discuss in the tape. So hang on to it, you'll need it later.
No Brainers on Interviewing is full of great advice on how to have the ideal interview. You can be sure that we'll make learning how to interview quick, easy, and fun. That's a no-brainer. To get you focused on our interviewing game plan, here's a brief overview. First, we're going to put things into perspective for you, then quickly move into interview preparation, where we'll focus on doing your homework and the 6 types of interviews you're likely to face. Then we'll tackle the day of the interview and talk about appearance and logistics. After that, we'll get a dose of interview actualization and go over the 9 dimensions in which a candidate is judged. Then we'll touch on the salary issue and how to negotiate for the salary you want. And finally, we'll cover post-interview etiquette and handling an offer.
Part 1, Putting Things in Perspective.
Before you can actually get an interview, you need to have prepared a resume and cover letter. In this tape, we're assuming you've already done that. If you haven't, have no fear. You just need to check out No-Brainers on resumes and cover letters. If you've already taken care of your resume, then you're probably gearing up for the big interview.
Throughout this tape, the person doing the interviewing will be referred to as the interviewer, and the person interviewing for the position will be referred to as the interviewee. So, once you've got that down, it's important to realize that the interviewer is a person, just like you, and isn't out for blood.
Everyone does it. We go to an interview thinking, oh my God, for the next 20 minutes, I better come up with the right answers or else I'm digging ditches the rest of my life. Well, it isn't that bad. Relax, lighten up. No one's going to humiliate or torture you. Remember that the interviewer was once in the same seat you're in. Think of the interviewer as just another person and you'll do fine.
Because the interviewers are just regular people, they'll have flaws. Gain some perspective by recognizing these flaws. There are 3 things you need to look for. First, the interviewer may not be used to interviewing. Secondly, the interviewer may not know what to look for. And thirdly, the interviewer may not be prepared. The interviewer may not be used to interviewing.
The interviewer probably has a specific job to do other than interviewing, like designing miniature pony saddles. Because their main job isn't interviewing, be aware that many interviewers may not be very good at it.
So, tell me about your childhood.
To make the best of this situation, you may need to steer the conversation to your strong points.
As a child, we went on a lot of road trips, and a lot of road trips means a lot of snack foods. That's where my love of snack foods came from. Without it, I would never have landed the marketing position at Little Antoinette's Snack Cakes. I even wrote the Let Them Eat Snack Cakes slogan.
In fact, some interviewers may welcome it.
Tell me about your experience at Little Antoinette's.
The interviewer may not know what to look for.
What we need is someone who is willing to accept the challenge but not treat it like a challenge. Someone who takes a challenge and doesn't make it look like a mountain. Well, maybe it looks like a mountain, but he doesn't treat it like a mountain. Actually, someone who treats a mountain gently, like a kitten or a baby duck.
Once again, this can work to your advantage. Take the opportunity to show that you know what they are looking for and that you can meet their needs.
I think it's very important to accept challenges, but not without preparation and assessment.
Exactly.
The interviewer may not be prepared.
So I remember reading on your resume that you went to high school.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
You also went to college, it appears.
If you think the interviewer isn't prepared, help him out. You're here for a reason.
I did go to the University of Texas for my undergraduate work. They have an excellent program in zoology. It was the prestige of that program that got me a summer internship translating old Green Acres episodes for the monkeys in the sign language program at the San Antonio Zoo.
So remember that your interviewer may be just as afraid as you are, and you can use that to your advantage. Now that you've got some perspective, let's move on to preparation.
Is the interview review with Phil McHugh.
Welcome to the Interview Review with Phil McHugh. I'm Phil McHugh. In the Part 1 review tonight, putting the view back in review. When facing the task of interviewing, it's important to put things into perspective. Gaining perspective on the situation will help you relax and focus on having a great interview. This has been the Interview Review with Phil McHugh.
Part 2. Prepare yourself.
A good interview is all about preparation. You don't have to hope you'll have a good interview. You can make it happen. Right, guys?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Agree with you. That's great.
To ensure a good interview, there are 4 things you need to do. First, you need to do your homework. Second, you need to find out what type of interview you might have. Third, you need to know what to expect. And fourth, you need to practice, practice, practice.
Section A. Do your homework.
Before you go into your interview, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. You should try to find out as much as you can about the company you're interviewing with. Go to the library and do some research. Even the internet is a good place to get information. The place you're applying to may have its own website that can offer invaluable information and some good talking points for your interview.
Know as much as you can about the company or organization before you go into the interview. You should know who their competitors are, what type of business they're in, what their products or services are, and any recent developments in their industry. All this preparation will show an employer that you really want to work for their company.
The more research you do on the company, the better prepared you'll be for the interview, and the better able you'll be to decide if you want to work there.
An interview is not only a chance for the company to interview you, but also a chance for you to interview the company. Just like you're pitching yourself to them, they will be pitching themselves to you. Be aware that you need to judge them as well. No office place is going to be a utopia, but each will have certain qualities that you find particularly desirable, and certain qualities that you don't find desirable at all.
Once a company decides to hire you, they'll go into sales mode and begin to tell you all of the wonderful things about working for them. But realize nothing is perfect. Just as you only tell the great things about yourself and forget to mention things like, I oversleep, I procrastinate, and I steal office supplies. Recruiters may also fail to mention certain unpleasant details. Your first day on the job is too late to discover these things.
Understanding the position you're applying for is as valuable as having knowledge of the company. It's imperative that you know exactly what you're applying for. This will help you see how your qualifications relate to the position. Preparation is about knowing what you want as well as what the employer wants.
Section B. Types of interviews.
Believe it or not, there's more than one kind of interview. So when you're notified about an interview, it's important to find out what kind of interview it's going to be.
There are several main interview types: telephone interview, preliminary interview, panel interview, sequential interview, mealtime interview, and a skill-based interview. We'll go over each type so you have an idea of what to expect in each situation.
The telephone interview.
With a telephone interview, the interviewer will probably specify so up front. If they don't, then ask. Telephone interviews are often used to determine whether or not your salary needs are in their ballpark. This is something you should think about ahead of time, and if possible, you should avoid the telephone interview. But sometimes, due to location or time constraints, a telephone interview can't be avoided.
When you're doing a telephone interview, it's important to act like you are in a one-on-one interview. Even though the interviewer can't see you, your speech and choice of words will reflect how you sit, act, and dress. If you are dressed formally, you are more likely to speak formally. Also, be aware of your voice and make sure it doesn't show how nervous you might actually be. At the conclusion of a telephone interview, always request an in-person interview to follow up.
The preliminary interview.
Sometimes, before you get into the main interview, you first will have a preliminary interview. This interview will probably be with a human resources representative. The purpose of this interview is to weed people out, so higher-ups don't have to waste their time with people who have little or no chance of getting the position.
Even though the preliminary interviewers can't hire you, they can keep you from getting the opportunity to get hired. So, treat them with respect.
Don't give too much information. Using your whole pitch here would be a waste of time. Be pleasant and to the point.
The panel interview.
Panel interviews are when there's more than one person interviewing you. A panel may consist of department heads or just various people that you'll have to work with if you get the position. Each panel member will probably have a list of questions and a rating sheet, so you need to really be aware that there's an audience.
Because there will be so many eyes on you, make sure to watch your body language and eye contact. You need to look and talk to each person on the panel. And after the interview, make sure to get each interviewer's name and card. They will appreciate it, and it will help you remember their names and titles later when you're writing a thank you note.
The sequential interview.
Sequential interviews are frequently used for positions in which someone has to work directly under several people. In a sequential interview, you interview with more than one person, but at different times.
Though sequential interviews may seem less formal, you're still being judged. It's important to find common ground with each interviewer and find something different to talk about with each one. You may repeat some answers, like why you want the position, but you want to make sure not to sound stale.
Even though you're dealing with a hierarchy in a sequential interview, it's important to treat all interviewers the same. Don't treat anyone like they are lower on the totem pole. Remember, if you get the job, you're going to have to work with all of them.
The mealtime interview.
A mealtime interview is a hot commodity. It means the employer likes you enough to at least buy you food. However, a mealtime interview isn't without its pitfalls. Be very aware of spills, manners, and drinking alcohol.
Interviews don't always take place in an office. They may occur in a restaurant, over lunch, or dinner. If you find yourself in this situation, don't order the most expensive thing on the menu or food that's difficult to eat. Imagine you're on a date. You aren't going to order ribs, lobster, spaghetti, or any other food that's difficult to eat and will make you look stupid. And never, ever order alcohol, even if your host does.
And always remember that you're not just out to eat with your buddy either. You're being interviewed, so act like it.
The skill-based interview.
A skill-based interview is when you must perform in some sort of capacity. If you're an actor, you may have to do a script reading. If you're in advertising, you may have to give a sample pitch. A skill-based interview can be a great opportunity to show the interviewer what you've got, but make sure you show them the right thing, that you're responsible, creative, and organized.
If you need equipment for your presentation, make sure to let your interviewers know ahead of time. Just a note, ahead of time doesn't mean 15 minutes before your presentation. Be 100% prepared. Don't ever wing a presentation, and make sure you're clear on what they're expecting.
Section C. Know what to expect.
When you meet someone for the first time, there can be that awkward period during the first few minutes where no one knows exactly what to say. This happens a lot in an interview as you're being escorted back to the interviewer's office. To avoid this awful silence, have a few topics picked out that you can make small talk about. An easy way to do this is to read the morning's newspaper to get ideas.
So I read in the paper this morning that a golden retriever rescued 11 orphans from a burning ice cream parlor on Sunday.
Really?
Heartwarming story.
Those are good dogs. Damn good dogs.
It's important, though, not to sound like you've prepared something. Make sure that your personality can shine through. Find something in common with the interviewer so you can bond. An interviewer is more likely to hire someone they feel a connection with. It's easier to make that connection if you're relaxed and prepared. So that means practice. Specifically, you need to practice how to answer interview questions.
I just don't know how to act in an interview situation anymore. I used to model myself on Humphrey Bogart, but now I'm thinking I want to be more like Gene Hackman in Hoosiers. I don't know what the right answers are. I just don't know.
Okay, Kurt. There are no right or wrong answers in an interview situation. The best answers are the ones that help the interviewer understand who you are.
There isn't one perfect phrase or thing that you can say that will make an employer hire you on the spot. Employers want to see who you are, how you communicate, and how you think.
You should take time to think through questions that an interviewer might ask. Think of answers for the common questions, but also answers to questions that will throw you off or make you nervous.
To help prepare you, we've included a list in the insert booklet of some of the most common questions interviewers ask. Things like, why are you leaving your present job? Employers use these zingers to weed out candidates. Because of this, we call these questions the most common disqualifying questions.
When preparing for an interview, make sure to think of answers for these common disqualifying questions. These are questions that will get you to reveal something about yourself that you wouldn't ordinarily reveal, so you need to be careful.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Answering this question with, I see this job as a stepping stone to a better job, isn't a good option. That answer will get you the boot. You need to show that you will be committed and hardworking.
I'm really interested in developing and strengthening my skills. I think the direction in which this company is going would allow me to achieve this goal in the next 5 years.
Other disqualifying questions are ones such as, tell me about yourself. This is a common question, but it's stumped many an interviewee. Your answer will vary according to what kind of position you're applying for, but the most important thing is to have prepared ahead of time and have an answer that flows naturally.
You can also think of questions that are specific to your field. If you're in advertising, ponder questions like, what do you think is one of the best advertising campaigns right now and why?
These are all difficult questions in their own respect and might be part of a high-anxiety interview. High-anxiety interviews are common in high-stress fields like investing or sales. If you're in a high-stress field, you might want to prepare for a more difficult interview. Ah, don't touch me! I'm under a lot of stress.
In a high-anxiety interview, interviewers will use tactics to see if you can handle a high-stress environment. They may be purposefully offensive, may act like they aren't listening to you, ignore you, and ask you negative questions. For example, they may ask you to tell them about a time you made a mistake or failed to meet a goal. Turn the question around to have a positive message.
So, what do you think your boss's biggest flaw is?
Actually, I have a good relationship with my boss. I'm leaving my current position because I recognize I'm ready to move on and increase my responsibilities.
Speaking of positive spin, if you have gaps in your resume or any other problem that may come up, such as college GPA, prepare to answer questions about it.
Hey, is a 1.8 GPA bad?
Don't volunteer information about it, but be prepared if you don't have a choice.
No matter what an interviewer asks, keep in mind that there's a good way to answer every question. A good answer is complete, to the point, and highlights something about yourself. Never just answer the question. Turn each answer into an opportunity to tell the interviewer why you are right for the job.
There are certain things an employer is not allowed to ask you in an interview. Among these are questions about your age, family, marital status, sexual orientation, race, or religion. So if asked, how do you handle it? Begin by simply stating with a smile, that's an interesting question, but I really don't see how it has anything to do with this position. Most smart interviewers will get the hint and back off. If not, state that you don't feel that the question is appropriate and understand it may even be illegal to ask. Just because an employer asks you a question doesn't mean you have to answer.
In order to have a great interview, you need to take the things we've discussed so far and practice. Just like an athlete, you need to work hard to achieve your goals.
A world-class athlete would never think about performing without practicing first. Before you go into your big interview, you should spend time practicing with a friend, video or audio taping your practice sessions, or even talking in the mirror to make sure that you sound and look good. Even though you may feel stupid, this practice will help you to eliminate errors and gain confidence.
Let the practice begin.
Practice is important, but practice only makes perfect if you know what to practice. To know what to practice, you need to know what to expect. It's important to be prepared for even the smallest of things, like how to dress and how fresh your breath is.
Is the interview review with Phil McHugh.
Welcome to the Interview Review with Phil McHugh. I'm Phil McHugh. Tonight in Part 2 review, take it from the scouts. Be prepared. Being prepared means knowing what to expect and practicing. This has been the Interview Review with Phil McHugh.
Part 3, the day of the interview.
It's necessary that as you begin the interview process, you begin to think of such things as dress, directions to the office, and dealing with nerves, so that when the day of the interview comes, you'll be ready.
Section A, Appearance.
The number one question about appearance is, how formal do I dress? This is even more of a question now, with a lot of offices going casual on Fridays, or even going casual every day. In this complicated world of wardrobe, here's a good rule of thumb.
If you wear a coat and tie to an interview, and the people you're interviewing with are casual, nobody will think less of you. However, if you show up to an interview dressed casually, and the employer is dressed professionally, you certainly will be noticed, negatively.
So unless your interviewer tells you otherwise, it's best to dress professionally.
Women.
The key to appearance for women is conservative. A smart suit will help you achieve this look. Overall, women need to focus on looking nice and well-groomed. Hair, clothing, makeup, and jewelry should not be memorable. Your best impression should come from the content of the interview, not your wardrobe.
Men.
The key to men's dress is to look traditional.
I'm here to interview for the marketing position.
That's traditional, not outdated. A good old suit and tie will do the trick.
For men, the most important thing is to look clean, well-groomed, and aware that it's not 1976.
Men.
And women.
Make sure that whatever you do wear is clean, wrinkle-free, fits, and looks nice on you. If you look good, you're going to feel relaxed and confident.
Though you may leave for the interview smelling like a rose, you aren't scot-free. Right before the interview, take a trip to the bathroom to check your appearance, including teeth, breath, body odor, and makeup.
This will save the "you've got something right here" scenario.
So once you're clear on the whole appearance issue, you need to start thinking logistics.
Section B, Logistics.
It's imperative that you know where you're going for the interview. Knowing the area isn't good enough. You need to know exactly where the company is. Before the interview, go find the location. Leave around the same time you'll be leaving for the interview and take the same type of transportation. This way, you'll know how long it takes to get there, and you'll save the embarrassment of getting lost and being late.
Don't be late. However, if you are late, apologize right away, but don't explain.
You don't want to be late, but on the other hand, you don't want to put pressure on the employer by being early. If you're early, then just walk up and down the block or sit in your car in the parking lot. You don't want to appear over-anxious.
Right on time is the right time. If your interviewer is late, don't get upset. Use the time to look over your resume again or to check out the company literature. If the interviewer is really late, you should still wait at least an hour before leaving. After a half hour, you should ask the receptionist or someone that works at the office what you should do next.
On the day of the interview, you need to think about what you're going to bring along. You can bring carrot sticks and a sandwich if you want to, but to make sure that you're fully prepared, there are a few special things you need to bring with you.
Always bring several copies of your resume. This will come in handy in case the interviewer doesn't have one, or if in a panel interview, not all the interviewers have one.
You should also carry your work reference information with you. You should have a list of about 3. That way, you can choose the ones most appropriate for the position at hand.
Be sure to give your work references a heads up when you start looking for a job. When you do give your references to an interviewer, make sure to later contact the reference and let them know what's going on. They'll appreciate it.
If your current employer doesn't know you're interviewing, then don't list them as a reference, or else it won't be a secret for long.
What? On the same note, don't list an employer as a reference if you don't trust that he or she will give you a good recommendation. An employer who fired you or an employer you left high and dry is not going to have the fondest memories of you.
You should also carry examples of your work with you. If you're in marketing, bring a non-confidential marketing plan. If you're a writer, bring writing samples. If you are a clown, bring pictures of your sad and happy face. That way, you always have a little something extra to share.
Everyone gets nervous. It's a natural reaction when excitement and fear get together. The best thing you can do about nerves is to accept them. Understand that it's natural to be nervous. You can try basic relaxation techniques to help keep your mind off them. First, focus on your breathing. Make sure you're doing it, and make sure your breaths and exhales are long. This will help to relax you. You may want to do a little light stretching to loosen yourself up. Be aware of a stiff neck and clenched teeth. You want to make sure that nerves don't affect your body language.
You can also try to talk yourself out of being too nervous. Focus on the part of you that's excited, not afraid. Get psyched about sharing yourself with the employer. Don't dread the experience. An interview is your time to shine.
Once you're ready for the day of the interview, it's time to start thinking about what is going to go on in the actual interview. Interview actualization.
Is the interview review with Phil McHugh.
Welcome to the Interview Review with Phil McHugh. I'm Phil McHugh. Tonight, Interview Review tackles a day of small talk, breath fresheners, and business cards. A day of punctuality and pretense. A day of the interview. On the day of the interview, it's important to focus on appearance. You need to look sharp and clean and well-groomed. Logistically, know where you're going, what to bring, and how to relax when you get there. This has been the Interview Review with Phil McHugh.
Part 4, Interview Actualization.
This is it, what you've worked so hard for. If you can stay focused, you'll do great.
Section A, Judgment Day.
There are 9 dimensions in which a candidate is judged during an interview. 1, educational background. 2, work experience. 3, oral communication skills. 4, impact through appearance and personality. 5, motivation and commitment to a job. 6, initiative on the job or in school. 7, independence on the job, including conflict resolution. 8, broad range of interest. And 9, work standards. This list also appears in the booklet that came with your tape.
Let's take a look at these 9 dimensions and how you can make sure you get good marks in each of these categories.
Dimension 1. Educational background.
Once you've gotten an interview, the interviewer has already seen your resume and already knows whether or not you have the appropriate educational background.
You should, however, be prepared to talk about your education and how it relates to the position you're applying for. For example, you might want to bring up a specific course you took that would help you in the position. If you're applying for a hotel management position, you might want to discuss a specific course you took in tourism studies, or you could talk about a specific project you worked on for a management course. It's always good to tie in your educational background, especially if you don't have a lot of work experience.
Dimension 2. Work experience.
Work experience is another area that the interviewer should already know a little about. Your resume should cover the basics, and then you should be prepared to describe in detail what skills you have acquired and how they qualify you for the available position. Be specific. Talk about a project you helped implement and how it affected the company.
I felt like people wanted something more at their fast food. People didn't want to feel like they were eating a lower class of food, so I said to myself, why are we giving them lower class condiments? That's when I knew the answer. Fancy ketchup.
All the following dimensions deal with you as a person and your ability to bond with the employer. You need to mesh with them. Not every person you meet will relate to you, so if the chemistry's not there, it's better to know now and cut your losses rather than work for someone you don't like or doesn't like you.
Dimension 3. Oral communication skills.
Getting your point across during an interview is extremely important. If you can't get your point across in the interviewer will think that you won't be able to get your point across in an important business situation, and then you're doomed. Make sure that you're clear, direct, and that your speech flows. Also, use appropriate language in the interview. Most slang is probably not appropriate.
Practice will help your speech immensely. Talk into a tape recorder to make sure that your speech flows and that you don't use any verbalized pauses such as like and you know. You know?
So, like it was, like, basic office work, right? I mean, like, basic, really basic. You know what I mean, right?
No, actually, I don't know what you mean.
Basically, in an interview, you want to sound professional, and you want people to like listening to you. Be professional but friendly. An interviewer likes someone who allows their personality to show through.
Dimension 4. Impact.
A first impression is exactly that, a first impression. So make sure it's a good one. The interviewer is looking for someone who will fit in, so look and act like you will.
You should be able to pick up on the mood of the office while you are waiting or while you are walking to the interviewer's office. Take note of the working environment. Are people laughing and joking, or are they quiet, busily working?
You should look like you fit in too. That's why it's important to research the company and the position before the interview. A brokerage firm is probably going to be more conservative than a graphic design firm. Make sure your demeanor fits with the genre.
Fifth dimension. Motivation and commitment to a job.
An interviewer wants to see someone who really wants the job, not someone who wants a job, but someone who wants a job at their company. Offer suggestions and show that your addition to their team will really make a difference. Employers want someone who's going to be a good addition to the company, not someone who's just going to fill a desk.
Commitment to a job is very important. Never tell an employer that the position you're interviewing for will be a good stepping stone. Employers don't want someone who is constantly going to be looking for something else. Make it clear that you're looking to commit to a job.
Dimension 6. Initiative on the job or in school.
Employers want someone who's going to take the ball and run with it, not someone they'll have to hand-hold. Make sure to stress that you're that type of employee. Talk about specifics from your past that show your ability to take charge.
So how closely were you supervised at your last job? Was there any hand-holding involved?
My immediate supervisor was more of a facilitator. I like to take charge of my projects, not wait for someone to tell me what to do. I see the supervisor as someone to steer the project in the right direction, but that ultimately I'm responsible for its progress and quality.
Dimension 7. Independence.
An employer wants someone who is able to think for themselves. Independence in the workplace is a great attribute for an employee to have. If you have to make a difficult decision on the job, the employer wants to trust that you'll make the right decision.
So if required, would you be able to fire a coworker, a friend, a relative, your next-door neighbor, your childhood best friend, the only guy who let you sit at his lunch table in high school?
Firing someone is never easy, especially if it's a friend. But when you have a job to do, you have to act in the best interest of the company.
Dimension 8. Broad range of interests.
The employer is looking for well-rounded employees that have had work experience and life experience. To broaden your appeal, make sure to mention activities and hobbies you have outside of work. This will help give your personality definition.
Dimension 9. Work standards.
An employer wants an employee who has personal goals, someone who's interested in personal excellence and not just in being outwardly rewarded. Show indirectly that you have these internal standards.
Section B. You're there for a reason.
An interviewer may be judging you, but you should enter into the interview with a mission of your own. You need to know how to achieve your objective. I mean, you are there for a reason, to get a job.
You can help convey your message, i.e., give me the job, by steering the conversation in the direction you want it to go. If you want to talk more about work experience than educational background, lead the interview in that direction.
If the interviewer goes off on some tangent, stay focused and try to get the interview back on track. You don't want to leave the interviewer with nothing but your opinions on which diner has the best chicken fried steak.
You can always change the topic, but most importantly, you want to keep the conversation alive and kicking. Make sure to answer the questions in a way that the conversation doesn't die. If the interviewer asks you, have you ever seen a fruit bat? Don't just say, once. You should expand and tell a story you heard about them, maybe a story you heard as a kid. You want to avoid any uncomfortable lull at all costs.
A good interview conversation is like a gymnastics routine. You want to get all the basics in quickly and with style. The conversation should flow and shouldn't be choppy. Like a gymnast, it is important to remember that you convey ideas not just verbally, but through body language as well.
Your posture, facial expressions, hand gestures, and positioning will tell the interviewer a lot. Don't slouch in your chair or seem too stiff. Make sure your body language is telling the interviewer that you are attentive, interested, and focused.
Once you've taken care of your side of the conversation, it's time to think of the role of the interviewer in the conversation.
You need to make sure to observe the interviewer's body language as well. Is the person focused? Does he or she understand you? You need to take notice of the interviewer's reactions and adapt to them. Make sure it's not just you talking and that you're both active participants.
You should also try to make the interviewer feel appreciated. The interviewer wants to feel that you're having a good time and that you enjoy their company. If they make a joke, however painful it may be, laugh anyway. If they feel good, they'll remember the interview fondly.
When the interviewer is talking, you can encourage them by being an active listener. This isn't the time to think about what you're going to say next. You need to listen and show you're listening by leaning forward and incorporating what they're saying into your own dialogue.
A good way to show you're listening and involved in the conversation is to ask questions.
You need to ask questions, you need to ask questions, you need to ask questions. You may not have any, but you need to ask them anyway. Think about the kinds of questions you could ask before the interview. For example, you can ask about specific company projects or about day-to-day office activities. Don't just wait until the end of the interview when they ask for questions. Ask questions throughout.
The interviewer is not the only person you can query. Feel free to ask other people you meet questions. Interviewers are focusing increasingly on group dynamics, so it's important to treat everyone with respect. The interviewer wants to know that you're going to fit in and be liked.
Your interview may be with a specific person, but believe me, everyone you meet, from the receptionist to the person in the hallway, will have some input to whether or not you get hired. Treat everyone you meet as if they decided whether or not you get the job. Remember, everyone counts.
You're in an interview for one reason: to get a job. You've got your mission cut out for you, and you need to use all the tools you have to achieve that objective.
To ultimately accomplish your mission, you've got to make sure to give the interviewer what they want.
Employers don't want to spend a lot of time hiring. They want to find someone fast so they can get on with their own jobs.
They're looking for someone to walk in and show them you're their man, or woman for that matter. You can do this by stressing your skills and telling them how you'll be as an employee.
Stress your skills, not your past job titles. The employer wants to know what you learned and accomplished in that position.
Try to stress the skills that you carry with you and that aren't specific to a particular job. Broad skills will apply to many areas, but specific ones, like your ability to paint landscapes on the head of a pin, will not.
For instance, if you were in sales, emphasize your ability to communicate in high-stress situations, not your ability to sell dog sweaters. The employer wants to know that you have skills and that you can apply it to their position.
Selling dog sweaters is a task in itself. We had a large demand from the East Coast, then on top of that, huge interest in Europe. I was dealing with so many different countries, different languages, different needs. That's when I really learned what it takes to be successful in sales.
Once they know you have the skills, you need to show the interviewer that you'll be a great employee. Make sure that you talk about your excitement for the company and the ideas you have. An employer wants someone who's going to make their lives easier, so stress what you can do for them.
If you demonstrate the qualification, the skill, and the desire to work hard and do a good job, the interviewer will be sure to take notice.
Is the interview review with Phil McHugh.
Welcome to the Interview Review with Phil McHugh. I'm Phil McHugh. Tonight on Interview Review Part 4, we'll take a look at interview actualization. It's important to keep in mind that you are being judged. Interviewees should make sure to review the list of the 9 dimensions in which a candidate is judged. Also, when interviewing, you are there for a reason, so make sure you get the chance to show the interviewer who you are. This has been the Interview Review with Phil McHugh. You'll never be judged again.
Part 5. Salary. Getting what you want.
Salary is like someone with toilet paper on their foot. You don't want to bring it up, but someone has to.
As far as salary goes, before you even mutter the word, you need to do some homework.
First, you need to find out what salary they're offering and if it's appropriate for your education, your experience, and for the field itself. If the salary meets these criteria, then it shouldn't be an issue.
You need to have established a baseline salary that you will not go below. Wait to bring up salary until your interviewer does. If they don't, you have to. If you do bring it up, make sure to ask about more than just salary. You want them to know you are concerned about other things like retirement.
Consider the whole compensation package, not just salary. Consider bonuses, commission, benefits, flex time, leave, etc.
Health benefits in particular are an important issue.
With health benefits, you need to find out what the employer offers and how much you have to pay, if anything. Make sure to ask if family is covered as well. As far as salary and benefits are concerned, you definitely need to ask questions. Don't just say, "That's great." Eagerness equals sucker. More importantly than baseline salary, you need to decide what salary you eventually want to make. You should then consider whether the position you're being considered for has the possibility of promotion and/or a raise to help you achieve your ideal salary.
Now, if the salary you're offered is not in the range you had in mind, then you might have to negotiate.
If you want to negotiate a higher salary, you need to be prepared to offer reasons why you deserve that extra cash.
The salary I requested is based on my German language skills, the 2 years experience I had writing Sweet Valley High books, and my degree in Central European Studies.
Cite skills, experience, and educational background. This will create a strong, well-organized argument, but be prepared to defend your position.
If you aren't offered the exact salary you want, you still have options. One is to discuss starting at the salary they've proposed, and then after a probationary period, increasing that salary. That way you have a chance to prove yourself and earn an increase in your salary.
Remember, too, that salary might not be brought up in the initial interview. It may be brought up in a follow-up interview. If this is the case, the follow-up interview is the best outlet for negotiating.
So once you've had the salary talk, the interview is probably almost over. Just something to chew on. If the interviewer asks for references at this point, it means they're really interested.
Once the interview is wrapping up, you need to make sure you know what's going to happen next. And don't be afraid to ask.
Never leave without getting a specific time frame that you can expect to hear back from the employer. It's not out of line to say, so I can expect to hear from you in 2 weeks. Always get a time frame. And if you haven't heard from them in that time frame, there's nothing wrong with calling them. After all, you want the job, don't you?
It's always best to know what to expect. A follow-up phone call never hurts. But still, find out if they're going to call you or if you need to call them.
Because sitting by the phone for the next 3 weeks isn't the best option.
So I guess this is it. It's not goodbye, just see you later.
We've been through a lot together.
It's almost like you're a son to me.
So, should I call you on Friday?
Don't call me, I'll call you.
Is the interview review with Phil McHugh.
Welcome to the Interview Review with Phil McHugh. I'm Phil McHugh. Tonight, Interview Review Part 5, the inside scoop on salary. Hold off on the salary talk for as long as possible, but when the salary issue is brought up, it's important to find out what the employer is offering, including benefits, how it compares to other salaries in the field, and if it's appropriate for your education and background. Then, if you choose to negotiate, you can move forward from there. This has been the Interview Review with Phil McHugh.
Part 6. The interview is over.
Section A. Post-interview etiquette.
Once the interview is over, you need to write a thank you letter. This will help the interviewer remember you and remember what you talked about.
Before the interview is over, make sure you know who to write the thank you note to. There's nothing more embarrassing or more inappropriate than addressing a thank you letter to whom it may concern. So keep this in mind during the interview. You can always jot down names on a pad of paper, or better yet, you can get business cards from the various people you meet over the course of your interview.
You're going to meet a lot of people, especially in a group or on-site interview. Nobody expects you to remember every single name, but you can certainly impress someone by writing a thank you note or mentioning their name. One great way to remember names is to ask for a card, and on the back of the card, you can write notes about the person or the meeting.
A thank you note helps tell the interviewer that you know, understand, and practice etiquette. This is important because it is a good sign that you will act appropriately on the job and with clients.
Sending a quick thank you note will do more for you than almost anything that happens in the interview. It reminds an employer who you are and demonstrates that you take pride in yourself and what you do. A thank you note doesn't have to be long or elaborate. Just make sure that you mail, fax, or even email it within 48 hours of your interview.
As we discussed before, you should get a clear answer before you leave the interview about what the next step is going to be. If you haven't heard from the interviewer by the specified time, call. You won't look pushy. You just look like you want the job.
When that job offer does come in, you need to be ready for it.
It's here.
Section B. The offer. It will come.
Caroline, what you watching, honey? Go into the light. Go in.
You need to decide if you want the job. Did you like the environment? Did you like the people? Did the people seem happy? Did the job description fit what you want to do? Will you grow at this job? Asking yourself these questions should tell you whether or not you want the job. You wanting them is just as important as them wanting you.
When you do get the offer, don't accept it right away. If you have decided that you really don't want the job, still give yourself time to think it over. But on the same token, if you do want the job, you don't want to appear desperate or without options. Thank the employer and give them an exact time by which you will call back with your decision.
If you decide to take an offer, make sure to get the specifics. Don't take an offer without discussing job description, salary, and benefits. Find out who you report to and what is expected of you in terms of performance, and find out exactly what the offer entails. You can even ask for it in writing.
The offer is the desired end of the interviewing road. But remember that every interview is an opportunity to learn about yourself and potential employers. Each interview will help make you a better interviewee, making the ideal interview the norm.
Your mission is successfully completed when you've gotten the offer you want. If you follow the tips we've presented on this tape, you're well on your way to that goal. So, congratulations.
It's the Interview Review with Phil McHugh.
Welcome to the Interview Review with Phil McHugh. I'm Phil McHugh. Tonight, Interview Review Part 6, Life After the Interview. Once the interview is over, the interviewee needs to think about post-interview etiquette, like writing a thank you letter, and start thinking about the possibility of an offer. After the interview, it's important for the interviewee to decide whether or not he or she wants the position. It isn't just about what the interviewer wants, it's about what you want as well. This has been the Interview Review with Phil McHugh.
So we've gotten through a lot of great information, and now we have something to help wrap this baby up.
To pave the way to interviewing success, here's a list of 6 key interviewing tips from the Vice President of Human Resources for Seagram's Incorporated, Tom Kegelman.
Map out your career game plan.
Before the interview, map out your career game plan. Know what you want and what you're doing at an interview. Soul search. Define clearly your personal and career objectives and keep them in mind during the interview process.
Conduct thorough research.
Conduct thorough research on the company you're applying to, and just as important is researching its operating culture. Be sure you have enough knowledge about the company to respond to questions and to formulate specific questions of your own.
Anticipate questions.
Anticipate the top questions and prepare simple, to-the-point answers. Walk the fine line between telling enough without saying too much. Watch the interviewer's body language and facial expressions closely to gauge when you might be saying too much.
Be enthusiastic.
Be enthusiastic and display a positive attitude. Eye contact is critical, and body posture is important. And don't forget to smile, but only when it's appropriate.
Role play.
Have you ever been paid for anything? No, I haven't. I have to say that I have not.
During your preparation, role play with someone you have confidence in. There's nothing like practice, yet many applicants fail to rehearse.
That's pretty good, man. Really? Yeah. I mean, but see, when the guy throws me the thing about, hey, have you ever done any, it's like, I'm not sure about that.
I know, but I think you got it.
Dress appropriately.
Style is important, so dress and groom appropriately. Traditional dress, such as dark suits, are best.
So we've done it. We've covered everything from understanding the interviewer to accepting the offer.
How sweet it is.
So now you've got the know-how on interviewing. Why not expand your knowledge? There are a bunch of other no-brainers titles like buying a new car, quick and easy cooking, and the internet. No-brainers make learning quick, easy, and fun. If you have any questions about this tape, just pick up the phone and give us a call at 1-800-238-9669.
Welcome to your new office.
Thanks a lot. I'm very excited about this new job, and I'm really happy to be here.
And if you want some more help kickstarting your career, go ahead and pick up a copy of Bradley Richardson's Job Smarts, and you'll be sure to find the job you're looking for.
So upset. Don't know what more now. Juliet, she is getting wet. There's nothing her now. Take it easy. Take it easy.
Introduce